Good afternoon, my name is Alena Shautsova. I'm an immigration attorney from Brooklyn, New York. In today's video, we're going to talk about the recent news, possibility of immigration reform. Immigration reform, as the media refers to, for millions of illegal aliens or undocumented residents of the United States. Just around Thanksgiving, we received reports from various media outlets regarding Joe Biden's new promise of passing an immigration reform within the first 100 days of his presidency. So it's very important news. Let's talk about who may qualify for this reform, the possible time frame, and of course possible obstacles. Remember that Joe Biden, incoming president of the United States, promised to undo many of the immigration changes to immigration policies that were done by the Trump administration. And from what I understand and what is reported by various media outlets and various lawyers associations, there are over 400 various immigration actions that were undertaken by the Trump administration, from the Muslim ban to the way the USCIS is adjudicating applications, possible immigration actions that Biden's administration will try to undo. So there will be a lot of work that Biden's administration will have to do in the field of immigration. And of course, they would like to start with immigration reform. Well, of course, this immigration reform is all long overdue for the United States. We know that there are millions of people residing in the United States who are seeking to improve their immigration status, but the way the laws are written, it's impossible currently. So let's talk about who may qualify for this reform and what this reform may be about. Well, first of all, I have to tell you that there are no specific drafts that are released in the media of the current immigration proposal, and I will base my predictions on the drafts of various immigration reform bills that were discussed previously by Obama administration and by Democrats during the Trump administration. And according to Joe Biden, he is seeking to provide a path to citizenship for about 11 million people, 11 million residents of the United States. So who are those potential people? Well, first of all, I think the reform is going to focus on TPS, or temporary protected status holders, DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals beneficiaries, or potentially people who can qualify for it, and DAPA. The DAPA proposal was first introduced by the Obama administration, but unfortunately never became the law and never became something that a person can apply for. But it was designed for parents of the US citizens, those parents who came in to the United States either without documents or lost their status, but now they have US citizen children. So I personally believe that the reform is going to focus on those three groups. Specifically, what will be required? Of course, again, we don't have specific information yet, but if we're going to base our predictions on the past reform bills, most likely what's going to be required would be a good moral character, that is usually showing that a person does not have certain criminal convictions or no criminal convictions at all. Usually minor criminal convictions are allowed and not going to present a serious issue. Paying taxes, being in the United States for a specific length of time. In the past, they were discussing 5 years, 10 years. So I guess that would be the usual expected time frames for a person to be able to qualify for immigration benefits in the United States. And in the past, one of the qualifiers would be family members, US citizen, children, parents, or someone in the United States. But again, it's only my guess. It can be that the final proposal will be very different. And of course, remember also that the law may be very different from the proposal. But I would think if I was a drafters of the reform, I would first focus on those groups. I would also probably, if I would work on this bill, would introduce something like a affirmative cancellation of removal. Cancellation of removal is a relief that currently is available only for those who are in immigration court proceedings. And I believe it's something that's very unjust and inconvenient because many people either cannot qualify for it because they have to be placed in removal proceedings, or some people request to be placed in removal proceedings just to be able to qualify for this cancellation of removal. So it's something that is out there, but first it has a visa cap of 4,000 visas per year, and second, it's not available for the majority of immigrants who would be happy to apply for it and would really qualify for it. So I think one of the proposals should be focused on this affirmative cancellation of removal. That would allow you to qualify for a green card if you can show, for example, that you lived in the United States for 5, 7, or 10 years, you've been a person of good moral character, and if you are removed, your close family member will suffer extreme hardship in case of your removal. So I would focus on family unity, good moral character, length of your residence in the United States as the primarily factors for qualifying for this amnesty, as it is referred in mass media reports. Also, by the way, Joe Biden mentioned that he would hold all deportations for 100 days. Okay, something to also take a note of, because of course, if it's going to come to life, this proposal is going to come to life, we will see that people simply have to stay in the United States to wait to apply for it, right? And they cannot be deported. That's why I think he mentioned that he would stop all deportations for 100 days to see if people would potentially qualify for these new changes that are coming. Again, no specific changes have been posted yet. We do not know if they will become the law. So let's talk about the possible time frame. How long does it really take for something like this to go into effect? Well, remember executive orders by Trump? Some of them went into effect the first ones. He would publish them and say they take into effect the next day, right? And it didn't really work too well because he was criticized for lack of notice and lack of discussions, lack of thorough drafting of his proposals. So the quickest action that Joe Biden can undertake as the new president would be an executive order. But executive orders are very vulnerable to various legal challenges, okay? Of course, the more comprehensive action would be a law. Law is a more stable type of legal action. It's harder to challenge that, but it also takes longer to pass because you need to have Democrats and Republicans usually to agree on the proposal. So it will pass by both the Senate and the House of Delegates, and the president is going to sign it into the law. So it takes time because various drafts would be discussed by various committees of the Congress, and it takes time to vet through it. So that's another type of legal action that can be undertaken in order to reform the broken immigration system in the United States. And of course, there are regulations as well and policy memos. Policy memos by Department of Homeland Security can go into effect relatively quickly, but usually they also have to provide a notice to the public, 30 days, 60 days notice or so. They have to be discussed, or there should be an opportunity to discuss the new proposals, and it takes time. So if I had to guess, I would think that apart from some quick executive action, any immigration reform or any action as a part of the immigration reform is going to take at least 60 days. Okay, at least 60 days. So that's the time frame I think we're looking at. It's the fastest, right? 60 days. And finally, what would be the obstacles? Why would anyone would not want to bring justice to the immigration field, immigration system in the United States? Well, the problem is that there are people who believe that if the government provides legal pathways for citizenship, for illegal aliens, as they refer to them, then the United States system is going to collapse. I've already seen arguments stating that if you give employment authorization to certain undocumented residents, they're going to flood the United States labor market, and the Americans will not have jobs, and it's a concern to them. The other argument is that any immigration reform is going to necessarily cause people to be encouraged to come to the United States and stay here illegally or overstay their visas. Of course, to me, as an immigration practitioner, such arguments do not present any threat to the United States system, or legal system, labor market, or immigration system. Why? Well, first of all, long-term residents, documented or undocumented in the United States, are most likely already working and they do have jobs. And those jobs are not desirable for people, majority of other people who are residing in the United States. Many of them are working in the agricultural sector, service sector, and those jobs are already taken. So the change will not be so drastic and harmful to the local Americans as it is expected. And as for overstaying argument, the argument that many will overstay their visas, I also don't believe it's going to happen, just because to qualify for the potential immigration reform, a person must first show that he or she already has resided in the United States for 10 years. So someone who would come to the United States recently, most likely simply is not going to qualify. Okay, usually a person would qualify for any type of immigration reform, as we're judging based on the facts in the past, right? Only if a person would reside in the United States for a lengthy period of time, 5, 7, or 10 years, a person would have family ties in the United States. For that reason, I wouldn't be afraid to pass the immigration bill, because I do not believe that it's going to encourage some person, let's say from Russia, to think, oh, let me come to the United States now. They're not going to benefit from anything if they come to the United States now. All right, so this is the biggest news. Great news. At least we have a promise by Joe Biden that he is going to work and he's going to take that very seriously, the possibility of the immigration reform for undocumented residents of the United States. And I'm going to keep you updated as to what's going to happen. I hope you enjoyed this video, so please subscribe to my channel, visit our website where we provide a lot of free information, useful tips for various types of immigration processes and applications, www.shautsova.com, and I hope to see you soon.